The call came in as a dog stuck. That's it. No details. Those are usually the worst kind. You drive out to some forgotten corner of the city, your mind racing through the possibilities. A dog in a pipe, caught in a fence. I've seen a lot, but I wasn't prepared for this. The heat was the first thing that hit me. It was bouncing off this huge, cracked lot of old asphalt and rusted out machinery. And in the middle of it all, there was a shape. It was dark, almost indistinguishable from the tar-stained ground it was lying on. That was her. She was fused to the ground, not just stuck, but bonded. It looked like a pool of roofing tar or discarded asphalt had softened in the sun, and shed laid down in it, maybe seeking warmth on a cooler night. Then the sun had risen, baking it all into a solid prison. She was pinned down. Her fur, her skin, everything on her right side was now part of the earth. Old, jagged pieces of rebar and rusted sheet metal were scattered around her, creating a minefield of sharp edges. One wrong move, one struggle, and she could tear herself open. But as I got closer, the full horror of the situation locked into place. This wasn't just a dog stuck in tar. There was something else going on here, a complication that would make this rescue one of the most delicate it ever performed. And in that moment, I knew that if we failed, it wasn't just one life on the line. Getting her out was no longer a question of if, but how, and we had to figure it out, fast. She watched my every move. Her head was up, her eyes wide with a terror so profound it felt like a physical force. She wasn't barking or growling. She was silent, conserving every last ounce of energy. Her breathing was shallow, rapid pants. The sun was relentless, and I could see the heat shimmering off her fur. Dehydration was setting in. Heat stroke was a real and immediate threat. The problem wasn't just the asphalt. It was the location. This was an abandoned industrial yard. We were surrounded by hazards. The rusty metal was the most obvious one. If she panicked and thrashed, she could sever an artery on the rebar sticking out of the ground, just inches from her neck. The asphalt itself was another beast. You can't just pull. You can't use force. Doing so would rip her skin clean off her body. It had to be dissolved, slowly and carefully. Her eyes followed the water bottle in my hand. I poured some into a shallow bowl and pushed it as close as I dared. She strained her neck, her muscles trembling, just to get a few laps. The effort was immense. After drinking, she laid her head back down. Her energy spent, her body was a roadmap of suffering. You could see the outline of her ribs, the exhaustion in the slight tremor running through her frame. She had given up fighting. Now, she was just waiting. And we were running out of time. There's no instruction manual for this. You have to assess and adapt. My partner, Mark, arrived with the supplies. We laid everything out. Gallons of vegetable oil, soft towels, sterile gauze, a bucket of warm water, and heavy-duty wire cutters for the rebar. The plan was simple in theory, terrifying in practice. We would use the oil to slowly break down the asphalt's grip, working from the outside in, millimeter by millimeter.
You're safe now.
The first step was to manage the immediate danger. Mark took the wire cutters and began meticulously snipping away at the rusted metal pieces closest to her. Each snap of the cutters made her flinch. I kept talking to her, a low, steady murmur. I wasn't saying anything in particular, just making noise, letting her know we were there to help, not to hurt. It's a strange one-way conversation. But sometimes, the tone is all that matters. With the immediate cutting hazards removed, we could begin. I saturated a towel in vegetable oil and started at the very edge of the asphalt patch, dabbing gently where her fur met the hardened tar. The oil needed time to soak in, to work its way underneath and loosen the bond. It was painfully slow. For the first 20 minutes, it felt like nothing was happening. The sun beat down on us, sweat was pouring into my eyes. The only sound was her quiet panting and the gentle patting of the oily cloth. And then, a tiny piece of fur came free. It was a small victory, but it was everything. It meant the plan was working. We continued, our movement slow, deliberate, as we worked closer to her body. The real challenge began.
Almost there, boy.
The asphalt was thickest here,
We're doing good.
tangled deep in her undercoat. Suddenly, as I worked on a patch near her back leg, she let out a sharp yelp and lunged. It wasn't aggression. It was pure pain and panic. Her head swung wildly, and for a heart-stopping second, I thought she would impale herself on a piece of metal we had missed. We both froze. My hand was still in the air. I held my breath, waiting. She collapsed back down, panting harder now, her eyes screwed shut. The sensation of the oil, the pulling, the foreign feeling of being touched in her agony, it was too much for her. We had to change our approach. We couldn't risk another panic. Mark created a small, soft barrier with a rolled-up blanket near her head, a buffer to protect her from any unseen sharp edges. I switched from a towel to just my gloved hands, pouring the oil and using my fingers to work it in with even less pressure. It was messier, slower, but it seemed to calm her.
All right, we'll get this all off.
She could feel the difference. An hour bled into 2. The sun started to dip lower in the sky. We were covered in a grime of oil, dirt, and melted asphalt. And then, we reached the final point of adhesion, a large patch right on her side. Her whole body was free except for this one spot. It was the anchor, with a final, generous pour of oil and a slow, steady pressure. I felt it give way. It wasn't a dramatic rip. It was a quiet, sucking sound as the last of the tar released its grip. For a moment, she didn't move. I don't think she realized she was free. I gently slid a clean towel under her, and that's when she seemed to understand. She tried to stand, her legs wobbling, unaccustomed to bearing her own weight. She took one step, then another, and then she collapsed into a heap on the soft blanket we'd laid out. Free. She was finally free. The work wasn't over. She was coated in a thick, sticky layer of oil and tar residue. We used soft cloths and warm water to clean as much as we could right there in the field. Her skin underneath was raw, red, and inflamed. But miraculously, there were no major open wounds. We wrapped her in a clean, warm blanket and lifted her into a crate in the back of the truck. She was too exhausted to resist. She just curled into the smallest ball she could and closed her eyes. And that's when we found them, tucked away in a small den she had dug under a pile of discarded sheet metal. Were 6 tiny puppies, no more than a few days old. That was the secret she was protecting. That was why she had endured the sun, the pain, the fear. She hadn't been looking for a warm place to sleep that night. She had been trying to get back to them. Her silence, her stillness, it was all for them. We carefully gathered up the pups, placing them in a separate, warm carrier. The whole rescue clicked into place. We had just saved a family. A few days later, at the shelter, the transformation was already beginning. The first bath took hours, a careful process of removing the last of the sticky tar from her coat. We gave her a high-calorie diet, and slowly, the light started to come back into her eyes. We brought the puppies to her, and she began to nurse, her maternal instincts overriding her fear and pain. She would lick them clean, a low rumble of contentment in her chest. She was no longer just a victim. She was a mother again. We named her Phoenix. Weeks turned into a month. Her fur started to grow back, covering the raw patches on her skin. Her puppies grew strong and fat, tumbling over each other in their pen. Phoenix watched them, her initial anxiety replaced by a quiet confidence. She learned that a hand reaching for her wasn't a threat, but a source of comfort. The day we took her back, not to that industrial wasteland, but to a sprawling green sanctuary, was the reason we do this work. We opened the crate, and she stepped out. Cautious at first, she sniffed the air, felt the soft grass under her paws. Her puppies tumbled out after her, immediately starting to explore the new world. She looked back at us one last time, a long, steady gaze, and then she turned and trotted off, her pups chasing behind her, watching her disappear into the tall grass. A small, dark shape against a vast green field.